Question number 7, Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Transport. Why was the government's new policy to double-lane 10 Northland bridges not announced by him or the New Zealand Transport Agency?
Mr Speaker,
Honourable Simon Bridges.
There's a by-election going on, and by-elections you spell out your policies, and because, Mr Speaker, National has a tremendous candidate in Mark Osborne, who is a strong voice for Northland, and wait for it, actually lives in Northland. Mr Speaker, as Transport Minister, I think Mark Osborne's commitment that he has made with me as National spokesperson for Transport is an excellent one, which I wholeheartedly support. On this side of the House, we can make political commitments and keep them, unlike on that side of the House.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Who approved the bridges policy and on what date?
Honourable
Speaker,
Simon Bridges.
I've made quite clear to the member's question before he was ejected last time in the House, Mr Speaker. I made this decision at the end of last week. Mr Speaker, I appreciate that the member is a little bit sore about the fact that on this side of the House we've got a strong voice standing for us, and on his side of the House his candidate's not even allowed to talk, let alone advocate for policies.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
What New Zealand Transport Agency and ministerial resources were used in the preparation and announcement of this $70 million policy as part of a National Party candidate's by-election campaign?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Simon Bridges.
We sought general information, but Mr Speaker, be very clear. On this side of the House, we actually like the people of Northland. We go up and talk to them. We find out what they think. We did it in December. We've got a strong voice there. And on this side of the House, when we make political commitments, we can actually follow through on them. The only thing on that side of the House they've followed through is throwing their local candidate, Willow Jean Prime, under Mr Peters' bus.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Phil Twyford.
That was a very specific question about the use of ministerial resources. I don't believe it was addressed.
Order, on this occasion, I'm unsure whether it was addressed because I couldn't actually hear because of the level of noise. I will invite the member to ask the question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What New Zealand Transport Agency and ministerial resources were used in the preparation and announcement of this $70 million policy as part of a National Party candidate's by-election campaign?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Well, Mr Speaker, as I made clear, I asked for information. Minimal resources were expended because on this side of the House, Mr Speaker, we actually go out and talk to people in the regions. I did it in December. We have a strong candidate who's been making very clear his priorities on this, including the need for bridges. Mark Osborne, Mr Speaker, a tremendous candidate who we let speak.
Order. The question was answered.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Oh, I'm happy to take it after the member has asked this question.
Supplementary question.
Thank you,
Phil Twyford.
Has he been advised that the Pipawai Te Toki Advocacy for Community Health and Safety group, who are campaigning to get more money spent sealing Northland roads, allegedly received a threatening phone call from his colleague Shane Retty telling them to tone down their demands or they wouldn't get what they wanted?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Mr Speaker, I'm not aware of that. I am aware of the general project. It's one that I think does need looking at. Of course, if we did that, the other side accused us of pork barrel politics. But, Mr Speaker, on this side of the House, we have got strong voices inside government who can make a difference on projects that matter to the people of the North.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Phil Twyford.
I seek leave of the House to table the email from the Pipawai Te Toki Advocacy for Community Health and Safety group.
Leave it. Order. I'll put the leave us sought to table that particular email. Is there any objection? There is none. It can be tabled.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, could I ask you to have a look at that transcript and particularly pay some attention to the first supplementary, which is virtually an identical supplementary question which I asked the very same minister last week. The problem, Mr. Speaker, is that the answer he gave here is different to the answer he gave last time.
Order. That's not...
And
order.
I just would...
Order. I will undertake to relook at transcripts, I always do, but the member's not raising a point of order. I'll certainly have a look at it for him, but I don't consider it's a valid point of order. If the member feels that anybody misleads the House, there's a very appropriate course of action which an experienced member like Mr Mark will be well aware of.
So you might...
Supplementary question, Phil Twyford.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Got carried away.
Then we will move to question number 8.